Oh,
Good afternoon, sir.
afternoon. Today we'll be doing TB. Okay, so pneumonia is done. Today we'll start pulmonary TB, pulmonary tuberculosis. Now, TB is a granulomatous disease. Someone's audio is on. Please check. Right. TB is a granulomatous disease caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. You know the basics. Communicable granulomatous disease where you will have granulomas being formed in the lung. It will primarily affect your respiratory system, specifically your lung. Ultimately, it will start spreading when it goes into the secondary stage. You will have primary TB, secondary TB. Once it enters secondary TB, it will start affecting other uh, organs and other tissues to an extent that it causes damage. Right. There are a few conditions and patients who are uh, have higher risk of what you call contracting TB. Those will include, generally speaking, this is a airborne disease where you get droplets from an uninfected person. So if I have one person who is infected, they are coughing, right, and their what you call droplets containing Mycobacterium tuberculosis are coming to, let's say, number two person is uninfected. Okay, so this person is uninfected and unexposed. So till now they have not been exposed to TB and they are completely fresh patient. Okay. So this is the basic route through which you get TB. You can also get TB through a secondary condition where, let's suppose, this third person had a history of tuberculosis, in the sense that this person already had TB once in their lifetime and they got cured or they got healed, whatever you call it. Ultimately what happens is, at one point of time, let's suppose patient number three's immune system is not working properly. Either they have gotten old, or what do you call, uh, their immunity is low because of some drugs. So for example, if they have osteoarthritis in their life or any autoimmune condition for which they are taking drugs that decreases or what do you call, subdues immune system, in that case as well, this patient can get reinfected by TB. So this can be a new infection, in the sense that this person is getting TB again. So that is another way you can get TB. A third way is in which, okay, we'll discuss the third way when we are discussing secondary TB. It will be easier for you to understand that way. Okay, so these are the primary, the main two ways through which you can get TB. All right. Now, 1 second. Right. Now, some conditions that will make a patient more susceptible to tuberculosis will include diabetes mellitus. I'll just write them shortly. Okay. Hodgkin's lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a type of cancer. Okay. Chronic lung disease. If the patient already has some type of chronic lung disease, specifically silicosis, then they are susceptible to get TB. You will have chronic renal failure if their kidneys, this thing is not working properly, the kidneys are not working properly, or malnutrition. Malnutrition plays an important role. That is why developing countries and third world countries, they will have a lot of TB, because the children in them and the individuals who are living in the country will not have proper nutrition, because of which they will not have proper immunity. Lack of immunity is one of the main causes of tuberculosis, right? And exacerbation of tuberculosis, rather than see, being infected is one thing, but being having the disease is another thing. I'll explain shortly what is the difference in between infection and disease in case of TB. Immunocompromised compromised patients and HIV patients. HIV patients are very, very, very likely to get tuberculosis. That is one of the main complications in case of HIV. They are very, very susceptible to get TB. Okay. Now, in in tuberculosis, there is a difference between infection and disease. Infection versus disease, in the sense that a patient can have infection but they might not show any clinical symptoms, in the sense that, let's suppose I have a patient's lung like this. Okay. This is the right lung, so it will have three lobes, and you have this. So please excuse the horrible diagrams, but This looks something like a lung. Okay, your lung is not supposed to be that big. Okay, and you have something like this, right? This is how your lungs look. I'm not going to draw too much into detail, but these are how your lungs look. Now, in case of infection, when we are talking about the first phase, which is the infectious phase, or whenever there is infection, let me draw it this way. Whenever there is infection, I know that Mycobacterium tuberculosis is entering my body. Let's suppose I do Mycobacterium tuberculosis like this. So these red small dots represent the what you call bacteria. All right. So they are entering my lung and they are replicating. So they will start replicating a lot and they will grow and proliferate like this. They are not supposed to be outside the lung, right? So they are replicating a lot. But during this point, the patient might not show significant clinical manifestations, in the sense that the patient might not have very high fever, the patient might not have severe cough, things like that. They might just have infection, in the sense that they will have bacteria inside them which is growing, but they will not have any signs as such. They might have a light flu like condition, okay, they might have slight fever and things like that, but as such they will not have any severe condition. That is the infectious phase. All right. Disease is a disease. Whenever we are talking about the diseased part of tuberculosis, that is a condition in which you are starting to have proper clinical manifestation. So a lot of cough with sputum and pus, there might be bacteremia, there might be especially in case of secondary TB, what ends up happening is tuberculosis starts metastasizing, or it will start moving around to structures around the lung and away from the lung, because it will enter your blood. It will get access to all over your body, so it will affect your meninges, it will affect your brain, it will affect your liver, your kidney, all around. Okay, so that is a diseased condition where it is causing damage to those conditions. See, you also have to keep in mind that sometimes these bacteria will proliferate, they will enter your blood and they might even go to other organs but not cause any damage. So that will be a part of infection. Okay, I hope you are understanding till here. There is a difference between infection and disease. Infection may there is there's no significant clinical manifestations, not to the point that they can be life threatening. Okay, just mild flu like symptoms. This can also be a condition in which what do you call, the bacteria is going all the way up to other organs. So let's suppose I have a liver here, and this bacteria is going all the way up to this liver and proliferating there, but not creating any damage, they're just replicating. Okay, this will still come under infection. The moment that it starts creating cell damage, that is when disease starts. Okay, significant cell damage, that is when disease starts. All right, so I hope यहाँ तक समझ में आया आप लोगों को. If you have any doubts, please let me know. If not, we'll proceed. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Who is HMCon 2? Okay, some new person. Well, anyway, now one thing that you need to know about TB is one, because it is very communicable. What it does is it will make your system, your body, very hypersensitive. All right, we'll study about that in more detail when we come across pathogenesis. But TB in general will cause a lot of hypersensitivity. So this is important when trying to detect TB, in the sense that you must have heard about Montauk's test, right? So that is one of the most common tests that you can do, diagnostic tests on tox test. All right, TOUX, sorry. Yeah, either A रहना उधर O रहना, right? So Montauk's test में क्या करते हैं, because the patient has become very hypersensitive whenever the patient is having infection, even if they are not presenting any clinical signs, significant clinical signs, and you are sending this patient for diagnosis of TB, what the person or the diagnostician will do is they will inject a little bit of tuberculin, okay, one antigen of what you call tuberculosis, or tuberculin antigen will be injected inside you, and you will have the reaction to that. So you will have indentation, you will have a pimple like structure wherever the person is injecting you. So that is how you perform Montauk's test. You will get, depending on the level of hypersensitivity, the time that what you call the time it will take for you to represent that pimple like structure will vary. Generally, sometimes immediately, sometimes maybe a day or two. Okay. So you might ask the patient to come back and get themselves checked. In case of positive tuberculin test, okay, in the sense that if I'm getting a positive test, meaning immediately I'm getting what you call a reaction. In that case, I'm telling that it is a positive tuberculin test. This will indicate that the patient already has tuberculosis, and tubercular antigens are causing what you call the reaction, the inflammatory reaction, the immune reaction. In case of false negative, in the sense that when does when do you have false negative? See, negative test will be anything where you are not getting any reaction. Okay, so normally the reaction will be recorded as, let's suppose I'm taking the patient's palm and I'm injecting a little bit of tuberculin in them, and after a while I'm seeing an indentation. So I'm seeing, let's suppose this is the area that I'm marking. Okay, and I'll see a small indentation like structure. Okay, let me do it with this pen. Right, let's suppose, oh dear, not that big. So I'm seeing an indentation like this, okay, something like a pimple. This indentation will be visible if it's a positive test. Let's suppose you are getting a negative reaction, in the sense that you are not seeing any indentation, but you are still suspecting that the patient has what do you call tuberculosis. When does that occur? In the sense, यहाँ पर if you are not getting any indication, that is technically showing a negative test, meaning that uh, based on this test the patient should not have TB. But in certain conditions you can get a negative condition, so that will be called a false negative test. All right, false negative, a false negative result, in the sense that even though the patient does have TB or TB and what do you call antibodies, here the reaction is between antigen and antibody. Even though the patient has TB, their immune system is not giving a response where you are creating this indentation. So this indentation is happening in the first place whenever you get a positive test. That indentation is happening because of a reaction with your immune system. If there is no reaction, that indicates it can be a negative, like the patient does not have any what you call tuberculosis altogether. But if the patient has Hodgkin's lymphoma, or the patient has viral infections, or the patient has malnutrition, or sarcoidosis, or immune suppression, so false negative will be seen in, I'll write them down: Hodgkin's lymphoma, immunosuppression, uh, immunosuppression, viral infections, your malnutrition, sarcoidosis. Sarcoidosis is a condition in which sarcoids will start getting accumulated in your body. Sarcoids are basically granular mass. All right. And overwhelming active TB. Okay. In all of these conditions, you will get a false negative test, meaning your immune system is not giving any response. If you see all of these conditions, they are conditions in which your immune system is not working properly. That is why you are getting a false negative test. Even though the person has tuberculosis, you are not getting a result, because Hodgkin's lymphoma is a cancer wherein your immune system will not work properly. If the patient is on immunosuppressants, or they are immunosuppressed because of whatever condition, you will not get a positive test. See, this is an antigen antibody reaction. So Montauk's test will involve giving an antigen. The tuberculin is an antigen. If the patient is hypersensitive, I am expecting that they will have antibody. So whenever I give this antigen, there will be an antigen antibody reaction in this place wherever I'm giving, and the end result will be this pimple-like structure. All right, that structure whichever is formed. Now, if the patient is immunocompromised, or if the patient has immunosuppression, there will be no antibody, right? There will be no antibody. So antigen will not react with anything. Technically speaking, this will present as a negative test, but you have to see whether or not the patient has another condition that might be suppressing their immune system. Viral infections are commonly known to suppress your immunity. So will malnutrition, sarcoidosis, and if you have overwhelming TB, meaning the TB has progressed a lot, but you're not having significant what do you call symptoms, in that condition also your immunity will not work properly and you will not get a positive test. These are all examples for a false negative test. All right. I hope you understood the difference between positive, negative, and false negative test. Okay. We'll get into pathogenesis now. If it is clear with everyone, then I'll go to pathogenesis. No doubts. If you want me to repeat, I'll repeat any particular part that you didn't understand or. Okay. So coming to pathogenesis, how does the disease progress and how does it start? So here we are talking about an individual who has been unexposed. So we have person number one. Let's suppose this is Ramu. Okay, our good old friend Ramu. This fellow is unexposed. Okay, completely new patient, and this fellow is coming across. Let's suppose person number two. I know my drawings are glorious, but yeah. So this person is Shamu. Okay, even my naming is glorious. So Shamu is infected with TB. So this person already has an active tubercular infection and they cough on Ramu. Okay, or they cough in presence of Ramu. So air droplets are what do you call flowing all the way up to Ramu, containing Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and Ramu is inhaling them. So we have basically a patient who is unexposed and they are what do you call getting infected by tuberculosis. Immediately what will end up happening is cell mediated immunity will come into picture. So if I draw a lung, let's suppose I draw a lung like this. ठीक है, यहाँ पर क्या होता, these bacteria, let's suppose these are the bacteria that are coming in. ठीक है, once they come inside, they will be greeted by your what do you call immune system, specifically macrophages. You know, you have alveolar macrophages present inside your lungs. So if I enlarge any one particular bronchi or any one particular cell, let's suppose I'm enlarging that and seeing what is happening inside, okay, in an acinus or an alveolus. So let's suppose this is your alveolus. In this you will have your macrophage, alveolar macrophage. Whenever you have a bacteria coming in, let's suppose these bacteria are coming in, your macrophage will immediately engulf this bacteria. Okay, from here is when your pathogenesis starts. Once inhalation of microbe occurs, from there your what you call macrophages engulfing this bacteria. From here on out, I'll just draw what will happen in your macrophage. All right, यहाँ तक तो pretty clear है ना? So inside your macrophage, let's suppose this is your macrophage. I'm expecting that you already know what is phagocytosis. We discussed what happens in phagocytosis. In case you have forgot what happens in phagocytosis, this is normal, okay? What I'm talking about is normally whenever there is a foreign agent or there is a foreign antigen that is coming normally, okay, that is why the N. This macrophage or any macrophage, what it will do, let's suppose this is an antigen like this, okay? Any foreign body, this fellow meets your macrophage. What ends up happening is macrophage will engulf your foreign body. So it will literally engulf like this. So it will put its arm around that microbe, okay, something like hugging the microbe or that antigen. So let me do it like this. Oh dear. So it is hugging, and the end result will be you have your macrophage with its nucleus, and you will form a vacuole here. So this will close and you will get a vacuole, okay, along with your bacteria or your microbe. Okay, this structure is called a phagosome. It is also called an endosome. All right, this is called a phagosome or endosome. Okay, this is basic phagocytosis. This is how phagocytosis will occur. From here on out, what will happen is the next step in your macrophage. one second. In your macrophage, here is your nucleus. In this, to this endosome, a lysosome will come into picture. Okay, let's suppose we'll draw lysosome with pink. Okay, this is the lysosome. Lysosome comes, attaches with this endosome, and you will have the formation of. So this is your lysosome. You know, lysosome has lysozymal enzymes. What will end up happening is, in your macrophage, you will have a bigger structure like this. Okay, let me draw it this way. So the lysosome is attaching with the endosome. Okay, what ends up happening is, this bacteria which was present inside, this fellow is greeted with your lysozymal enzymes. So lysozymal enzymes will act on the foreign body, and it will end up dissolving that foreign body. This is what phagocytosis happens. This I explained you during this I explained it to you during inflammation, right? I hope you remember this. This is the basic mechanism of phagocytosis. After this also several things will happen, but for now just remember till here. All right, I hope ये समझ में आया तुम लोगों को. Now in TB, that was normally what is happening. In TB, something very exceptional will happen. So I'm coming to the stage where, let's suppose your macrophage is already engulfed your bacteria, meaning you already have a endosome. In that, let's suppose this is your Mycobacterium tuberculosis present inside the endosome. So normally the next step immediately what should happen is, lysosome should come and attach with this fellow, right? But in TB this does not happen. Your Mycobacterium tuberculosis is a very smart fellow. What it will do is, it will release a particular protein that will inhibit mRNA synthesis. Okay, normally what happens in your macrophage is, your nucleus, the macrophage ka nucleus, that fellow will send a protein to your lysosome. Someone has to tell the lysosome to go and attach to the endosome. That is done by a few proteins. What this Mycobacterium tuberculosis will do is, it will impair that function of the nucleus. Okay, it will impair the function of the nucleus of your macrophage. All right, that is one thing it will do. So it will impair macrophage nuclear function. One thing. All right, second thing it will do is, it will create a wall, proteinaceous wall. Oh dear, hataaya. Creates a proteinaceous wall in between the endosome and lysosome, right? So what this bacteria will do is, one thing is, it is impairing the function of your nucleus. Another thing it will do is, this fellow will create a wall like this. Okay, so because of the presence of this wall, okay, let me do it in this way. Because it is a red bacteria, so it is creating a red wall. Because of this wall that is present in between the endosome and your bacteria or your lysosome, this lysosome cannot come and attach to the phagosome anymore. So what will end up happening is, now it has a nice area where it can proliferate. What ends up happening here is, bacteria will divide. Okay, it will divide a lot. Okay, this is in one macrophage. Now you have to remember is, during this period of time, this is still the infective stage. Okay, so if I take a lung like this, initially your bacteria will specifically affect your middle and lower lobes rather than upper lobes. Upper lobes ko utna nahi karta. Now we were talking about one macrophage. So if we take one macrophage like this, imagine this macrophage is here. Okay, so there is one macrophage like this, which is having a lot of bacteria that is dividing in it, right? It has a lot of bacteria. Or if even if I don't draw a lung, let's suppose I'm drawing only an alveolus, okay, much smaller. In that alveolus, I know several Mycobacterium tuberculosis came. Whenever there was inhalation, I know several Mycobacterium tuberculosis came. Some of them got engulfed by a bacteria, by the macrophage. Okay, let's suppose one macrophage is engulfing one or two or a couple of bacteria. So you're having this phagosome in which your bacteria is proliferating. Okay, other than the macrophage, there is still bacteria outside. They will also continue dividing. Okay, this will continue on for 3 weeks. They will keep on dividing again and again and again. And inside your macrophage, at one point of time, what will happen is they will divide so much that it will spill out of your phagosome. So the whole of macrophage becomes a nice den for your what do you call Mycobacterium tuberculosis. All right, यहाँ तक समझ में आया तुम लोगों को what is happening? Are there any doubts that you guys have? What is happening? How it is progressing?
Sir, once repeat, sir.
I can't hear you.
Repeat, sir.
I heard some noise, but nothing clear. Okay, I'm guessing you guys don't have any doubts. If you have doubts, then please you can feel free to put it in the chat as well. Okay, you can message me personally as well if you're feeling that shy. Please repeat. Oh, okay. अब ठीक है. Inside your lung, whenever an uninfected person comes in contact with an infected person and the infected person is coughing, uh, basically coughing and transmitting the infection to an uninfected person, what happens is the bacteria enters your lung. All right, in your lung, you know, you have alveolar macrophages. If I take the level of an alveolus, let's suppose this is an alveolus, right? I have a few bacteria that is entering. Okay, I'll decrease the number of bacteria. So let's suppose these many bacteria are coming. ओए न्यूक्लियस ही छोड़ा दिए. Oh dear. ठीक है, I'll read all that. You have your macrophage, right? Whenever a foreign body comes into your lung and in your asanas, you know that your I just told you yesterday, one of the 4 important protective mechanisms of your body will be the macrophage, the alveolar macrophage. This fellow will engulf any foreign body, be it antigen, be it any other body, right? Viable, non-viable. In this condition, what will happen is, let's suppose this fellow is engulfing one bacteria and creating a phagosome. All right, this phagosome contains one bacteria. All right, now at this point what will happen is uh, that bacteria will do 2 things. The bacteria is very chalu. What this fellow will do is it will not let macrophage do its normal function. It will not let the macrophage kill the bacteria. So how it will do is it will impair the nuclear function of that macrophage so that lysosome cannot be activated. One thing. Second is it will create a wall-like barrier in between the lysosome and the endosome so that the lysosome cannot come and fuse with the endosome. Normally whenever lysosome and endosome are fusing, the lysosomal enzymes will act on whatever foreign body is present and it will end up killing the foreign body. Here, because this is not happening, because it is being blocked, your lysosome cannot attach to the endosome anymore, and the endosome containing the bacteria has become a nice place. So it has got a nice room with nice AC, sofa, everything. It will nicely start dividing. Here it will divide to an extent that at one point of time it will literally burst out of the endosome. Now this is only one macrophage that has engulfed one bacteria which is proliferating. Outside your macrophage as well, whenever these bacteria which you can see here, okay, these bacteria that you're seeing, they will also not still sit still. They will start dividing as well, right? So this is a phase where bacteria are basically proliferating a lot. This will continue all the way up to 3 weeks. Okay, 3 weeks after exposure. Till then, it will keep on proliferating to an extent that these bacteria may even enter blood sometimes. All right, this is the first step. Okay, I hope यहाँ तक समझ में आया.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
चलो ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
Now, second step is, at one point of time, what will happen is in your lung, you know, you have lymph nodes, right? So let's suppose like this, and we are drawing a lymph node like this. Let's suppose this is a lymph node and this is a lymph node, and you have lymphatic connection everywhere to your lung, right? You know, you'll have lymph being flown around and you have lymph vessels around here, right? Let me do lymph vessels in a different color so that you'll not get confused. and suppose this is your lymph vessel. All right. Now in your acinus and in your acini and in your alveoli, there is already Mycobacterium tuberculosis infection. At around 3 weeks, till then they will keep on proliferating. Up till 3 weeks, they do keep on doing that, and at around 3 weeks, what will happen is they will come across lymph and they will enter lymph to a point that this fellow will go all the way up to lymph node, and in this process, it will come in contact with one of our fellows, which is our immune system cells. Okay, CD4 plus T helper cell. Okay, now you know this is a part of your cell mediated immunity, right? Now this fellow is coming in contact with your, specifically your macrophage. What will happen is, how this fellow, your bacteria reaches all the way up to your lymph node is the macrophage containing the bacteria. So let's suppose this is the macrophage and this has a lot of bacteria in it right now. All right, let's draw a nucleus as well. Okay, let's suppose this fellow has its nucleus and a lot of bacteria that have been proliferating in them. This reaches all the way up to your lymph node, or in the process of reaching the lymph node, it will come in contact with your T helper cell, CD4 plus type. Okay, at this point, what will happen is when this fellow meets this fellow, macrophage meets your CD4 plus cell, macrophage will release something onto your T helper cell. That something is interleukin 12. Okay, it is basically crying for help. Okay, because there is bacteria inside it and they are proliferating and the macrophage is not able to deal with it. What your macrophage will do is it will literally cry to your T helper cell, please help. That shout of helping is basically interleukin 12. All right, in response, your T helper cell will start secreting something called interferon gamma. Okay, interferon gamma. These are all mediators of inflammation, right? Interferon gamma will do two things. One thing is it will activate macrophage in a different way. So it will do two things. We'll discuss one after the other. Okay. The first thing it will do is activate macrophage. What it will do, I will discuss. Now, यहाँ पर आ गया आपका interferon gamma. Okay. To the macrophage, it will cause production of nitric oxide, reactive oxygen species, and it will help the what you call macrophage perform autophagy. Now, another thing you need to know about your Mycobacterium tuberculosis is initially, whenever there was infection, if you remember, I told you this macrophage is not able to what you call break down ODA. But endosome is not supposed to go out, right? This what you call your macrophage is not able to kill this bacteria either by your lysosome. Let's suppose this is your lysosome, because there is a barrier created and because its nucleus is not what you call able to activate this. Another thing is, if in the initial phases itself, if the macrophage is not able to handle the bacteria, it will try to perform autophagy. Okay, it will try to kill itself, but the bacteria is very hushar. That fellow will not allow the macrophage to kill itself as well. So the macrophage is out of options now. It cannot kill itself. It cannot what you call perform suicide. It cannot kill the bacteria. That is why it is crying, crying, crying. It will go all the way up to your T helper cell. Here, what will happen is your T helper cell is releasing something called interferon gamma. Interferon gamma will act on your macrophage and cause the production of nitric oxide and reactive oxygen species. Both of them will be created inside your what do you call macrophage. So let's suppose here nitric oxide is coming and reactive oxygen species, ROS बोलते हैं लोगों को, ठीक है? Both of these are very very oxidative. Okay, they will immediately start killing this bacteria. And another thing is, it will also cause the macrophage to undergo autophagy. So it will cause this, and autophagy will occur to your macrophage. So this macrophage is deleted. All right. I hope यहाँ समझ में आ रहा क्या हो रहा. Interferon gamma will basically stimulate macrophage to produce nitric oxide, to cause the production of reactive oxygen species. Both of them will cause oxidative damage to the bacteria, one thing. And another thing is, it will remove the suppression of autophagy. Now your bacteria was suppressing autophagy. Interferon gamma will remove that suppression, meaning your macrophage can kill itself. Ultimately, what will end up happening is your macrophage will die, containing the bacteria. That is the first thing your interferon gamma will do. Second thing your interferon gamma will do is, यहाँ समझ में आया hopefully. If you didn't understand, please stop me. Okay. Okay. Interferon gamma. Okay. The first thing is activation of macrophages. इसको बाजू लगा देंगे. Macrophage activation. Okay, I'll put it as ACT. Second thing this fellow will do is it will cause the production of this interferon gamma will cause the production of from your macrophage itself. Let me put it this way. Activated macrophages. Activated macrophages will not just cause the production of ROS and NO, but they will also produce something called tumor necrosis factor. Okay, and chemokines. So you will have, okay, let me simply write it down, it'll be easier. So your macrophage will do another thing. It will start producing tumor necrosis factor. So this is your TNF. There are several types, plus chemokines. Chemokines and TNF, what they will do is, they in turn will cause recruitment of your monocytes. All right, both of these will go and cause monocyte recruitment. You know, monocytes are another important part of your immunity. Monocyte recruitment, and they will chemokines kya karte, they will cause chemotaxis. Basically they will start attracting monocytes to the site of infection and to the site wherever damage is occurring. All right, so monocytes recruitment will occur. These monocytes in turn will get activated and they will become differentiated. So these are undergoing activation and differentiation. Okay, your monocytes will get recruited and monocytes will get activated and they will get differentiated and they will form epithelioid histiocytes. Okay, they will form something called epithelium like, hence epithelioid histiocytes. And this is basically your granulomatous response. These are your granular cells that will propagate inflammation. All right, so this is one function of your interferon gamma. Interferon gamma is acting on your macrophage and making it more stronger by causing the production of reactive oxygen species and nitric oxide. Also, it will allow the macrophage to kill itself. Other than that, whenever interferon gamma is acting on macrophage, your macrophage will start producing TNF and chemokines. This in turn will cause monocyte recruitment. It will cause production, or it will basically call monocytes to that site, and it will cause activation and differentiation of the monocyte to form epithelioid histiocytes. This will be your granulomatous response. All right, so this is your granulomatous response. So you'll see small granules present in these epithelioid histiocytes. That is why it is called granulomatous response. All right, that is one thing that your interferon gamma is doing. All right, यहाँ तक समझ में आया? The rest will continue tomorrow. There's less than 1 minute left. So I hope यहाँ तक समझ में आया तुम लोगों को. If you have any doubts, shoot. Okay. Chalo, see you tomorrow then.